need to know, need to know. If you think you're gonna leave, then you better say so. I need to know, I need to know, because I don't know how long I can hold on. If you're making me wait, if you're leading me on, I need to know, I need to know.
Clarita's hometown station, AM-1220 KHTS. You're listening to the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and normally John, but John somewhere in Florida, Key West, Lord knows what he's doing.
This seems to be happening a lot, Doug.
So we've got Mr. Chris Burke filling in for us. Chris, welcome to the Gazette Radio Hour.
Thank you. Pleasure to be back. So I just want to say something real quick. Before we get into the show, it's really perfect timing that I'm back today, because I really want to say a big thank you to Santa Clarita and everybody that came out to see Kenny Loggins the other night at Golden Valley High School. The show was absolutely spectacular. As if you've talked to anybody that wasn't there, you will find that out. And more importantly, the attitude that Kenny did this with was just over the top. And because of the sponsors and everybody that attended, we raised over $41,000 for the Golden Valley Marching Band. So thanks again. Had to throw that out there because it was really very, very successful. And feel free to call in and let us know who you want next year.
I was at the show, Chris. It was a great show.
Yeah, it was
fun.
fun.
I've never known he was performing for free because he acted like he was getting paid $1 million.
He acted that way before the show, after the show, and in conversation since.
Excellent, excellent. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, we have with us a news director from KHTS, Mr. Perry Smith, for the Weekend Review, or whatever we call this segment.
Thanks for having me on, Doug and Chris. Appreciate it.
What you got, Perry?
Oh, we got all kinds of news for you. You know that. Because
Okay.
especially since you gave me such a hard time last week about my news report.
That was
I
John.
scoured.
That
I
wasn't
beat the
me.
bushes. I pounded the pavement. And I
That
got
was
some good
John,
news
not me.
Well, I felt like there was, unanimous heckling from the peanut gallery. But what do we want to talk about? Legal stuff, education stuff,
Legal
court
stuff.
Oh, I know, that's always the most interesting, right? Palmdale city officials getting held in contempt of court. That's breaking. That's happening right now. They initiated the proceedings today. It's about this whole California Voting Rights Act.
Right.
Kind of an ongoing saga. It's been going on almost 2 years now. And the latest being that the Palmdale was ordered back in December to have a new election by July, and they had to have it districted election, which was one of the terms they agreed to, and they hadn't, or one of the remedies discussed by the court. And Palmdale hasn't done that. They have the same council. They had their regular at-large election in, I think it was, when was their last election? April, or whenever the city council was. Local elections were. And they didn't follow the new system, so now the attorney that was suing them said, hey, you're ignoring the court's order. You need to be held in contempt. And the judge agreed because it was his ruling that said you had to have this new election. So they're appealing that Monday, but as of right now, the Palmdale City Council, and including Tom Lackey, who's going to be running for the 36th, are now technically in contempt.
So, Perry, let me ask you real quick. Did the court order them to have district elections, and then they went ahead and did it without doing that?
Right.
Is that what happened? So they basically said to the court,
we're going to keep, we filed an appeal on that decision, so we're going to essentially ignore it and keep doing things the way we've done until the court says, till the last court possible says we don't have to do this. Or we do have to do this, right? However you want to look at it.
wow.
So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Trouble up north.
And then there was an emotional day in court yesterday. The Halloween trio wrapped up a 3-year wait for justice for the victims that were killed and robbed and shot in the 2011 incident in Halloween outside Arts Liquor down the street in Canyon Country.
Post office.
So
center.
those three men, one of them was found. The jury found there was not enough evidence to charge them. They were found. They declared a mistrial for Brandon Higgs, who was one of the 17-year-olds. There was 10 charges against him, or no, I'm sorry, 11 total, and they found one he was not guilty of the conspiracy to commit robbery, and the other 10 charges the jury deadlocked 7-5 in favor of not guilty. So talking to prosecutors, they might charge him again, they might not. But I've been told it's bad form to do that if the jury finds it. But, you'll get people to disagree with you on that. So
we could be talking about this next Halloween.
Right, exactly. The way the pace our legal system goes, we might still be talking about the appeal process then, Chris. But two of the men were found guilty in court, and there was emotional outbursts as soon as the guilty verdict was read for first-degree murder, because that's going to mean at least probably a couple decades in state prison.
And the emotional outburst was from family, or
right? That was the weird thing. There was nothing. Didn't appear to be any presence from the victims there. There was the man who was shot and killed was shot in the heart in front of his 7-year-old son, who would now be about 10 years old now, and nobody from the victim's family side there, or Ricardo Sandoval, the guy who was shot and lived and testified against the 3 defendants. He wasn't there. His family wasn't there. It was kind of weird because you usually expect to see like the emotional reaction on both sides, and really it was all seemed to be coming from the defendant's family members and friends. So, but yeah, those 2, and they were kicked out of court for their reactions. The 2 that were found guilty. Yeah, they jumped up and cussed in front of the judge, and the judge didn't like that too much and kicked them right out of the court. Yep, right into custody. So that was an interesting day. A little more than you usually see. Usually it's like procedures and that type of stuff when you go to court. So how are we doing, Peter? I got 51 seconds. All right, we got one more story. The graffiti arrest was kind of interesting news. Went a little under the radar because we had a lot of news yesterday. But there was a guy who had been tagging under the Rain and K's moniker for about 5 years. Hundreds of tags, thousands of dollars, all allegedly still. They haven't brought the case forward yet. But sheriff's departments are investigating that. And
now, is this all out in Santa Clarita?
This happened in Newhall, yeah. Most of his tagging was all in the Santa Clarita Valley area, and they're working with city officials. They have this program, you report some graffiti, and they track all that stuff, and they take pictures of it, catalog it. So they're going back through like hundreds and thousands of complaints over the last years of graffiti vandalism and finding out what this guy did, how it matches up, and they're going to charge him accordingly when the time comes.
So do you know how they tracked him down? I mean, they catch him red-handed, or...
You know, he had red paint smeared all over his back. No, actually, you know, the details of the investigation like that, when they don't release it, sometimes it's because of an informant, or sometimes it's just because they caught him in the act. But usually there's a reason why they don't release that, and they didn't actually give the nature of that. So,
all right, Perry, sorry to cut you off. We might have you back today. We have to see how our guest flow goes.
Kind of like the old Johnny Carson show. You don't know if you're going to bring them out to the last minute.
That's right.
I like that.
You don't know if they're going to make...
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Can our callers determine that? Can we get a flood of phones?
Sure you want that?
No.
Okay.
Just kidding.
All right, Perry, thanks so much. Perry Smith, the
Doug.
news director
Thanks,
here at
Chris.
Thanks, Perry.
KHTS, the Week in Review. And, folks, we'll be right back on Santa Clarita's Hopetown Station, AM-1220 KHTS. It's the Gazette Radio Hour.
I need to know, need to know. If you think you're gonna leave, then you better say so. I need to know, because I don't know how long I can hold on.
Welcome back, everybody, to Santa Clarita's Hometown Station, AM-1220 KHTS. You are listening to the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John. Chris Burke's here filling in for John this week. This is a Radio Digest version of the Santa Clarita Gazette and Free Classifieds for all you need to know to be in the know, just like Tom Petty sings. He needs to know, you need to know.
That's good.
Really?
That was really
Hey, I'm
good.
really excited. Our next guest, Chris, we have on the line with us Mr. Rob Lewis, who's the author of Love Me When I'm Gone. Are you there, Rob?
I'm right here.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, guys. How y'all doing?
Good. The byline of the book is, or the subtitle, whatever you call it, is the true story of life, love, and loss for a Green Beret in post 9/11 war. Does that sum the book up?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it all up in a nutshell. 300 pages, but I think that does it a lot of justice.
Okay. Well, give us a little insight to the book. What motivated you to write it, and where it came from?
You know, the book, it originally started off as kind of a journal. You know, I did the other method. Every guy in my family had been in the military. I was the first one who said I wasn't going to go. And then 9/11 happened when I was in college, and I kind of took that as a sign and said, hey, God, okay, I guess it's my time to go. So when I got to my first station, I was with 1st of the 10th in Germany, which is the first unit of Green Berets ever created. It's a quick reaction force designed to react to anything that happens on the Western Hemisphere. I got to my first station, sat down with my team sergeant, and he said, at the end of our initial brief, you need to start a journal because your life's about to get a lot more interesting. So I did. I started writing all this stuff down, and, you know, I got out of the Army, and we got pregnant with my first son, and I realized there was a lot of stuff that had happened that I wanted to be able to pass on, not just to my son, but the rest of the guys on my team and their kids. And I wanted to just get it down before all the marbles stopped rolling around in my head. So I created it as kind of just a narrative for all of us to pass on to our next generation, let them know what their dads did. And as the other guys started reading it and looking at it, they said, you need to show this to a lot of people. And so that's when I started looking at publishing it, and the rest is history.
Very good. Now, where is the book available?
The book is available. So Tactical 16 is my publisher. It's a veteran-owned and operated publishing company that they're all veterans, and they only do veteran stories. It's available on tactical16.com. You can also get it on Amazon.com. The audiobook is on Audible. I narrated the whole thing myself here at Adam Carolla Studios in Glendale. It's also on BarnesandNoble.com and in select Barnes & Noble stores.
You know, that's interesting about the publishing that you mentioned. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Tactical 16, I found these guys. I think when I started actually doing, publicity stuff for the book, I started going on radio shows, and my initial publicist put me on Tactical 16 Radio, which is a radio show that they do kind of for veterans. They talk about veterans things. And after I did their show, their CEO, Eric Shaw, contacted me and said, hey, man, we really want to talk to you about this, because I had self-published at the beginning, and anybody knows about that. It's a very difficult world.
It is.
And they looked at it, they had a read, and they said, we want this not just to be on our thing, but we want this to be kind of the cornerstone of our company. And so we signed a deal. I signed a 3-book deal with them. And so now my next book, The Pack, that comes out in January, will also be under Tactical 16 Publishing.
Wow. Folks, I wanted to let you know that Rob Lewis is a guest contributor to the Santa Clarita Gazette. He's been writing a weekly column, and we've gotten some great feedback on it, and I hope it continues. Rob, I can't let you go without talking a little politics.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's kind of my thing.
Yeah, me too.
I watch Fox News a lot. In fact, I saw you on Fox News once. You were on there, right?
Yeah, I was on. That was a lot of fun. I actually got to go on with Eric, who is the CEO of Tactical 16. So he was on station in Colorado, and I filmed here in Los Angeles. And, it was crowning achievement. I'm from a very conservative family. My stepmom's the mayor of her town, and very, very red state family. So they were happy to see me on there.
All right. Well, I want you to pretend you're like Colonel Oliver North or one of those guys, and you're on Fox News, and I'm Sean Hannity. Am I fantasizing?
You've always wanted to be Sean Hannity, haven't you, Doug?
But anyway, I want to get your take on how we're handling the ISIS crisis. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but anyway, we're hearing about ISIS and how brutal they are, and they're close to being able to take over Baghdad, which would be an absolute disaster. What's your take on the whole thing?
It really is a shame, because I was in Iraq. I served in Iraq twice. I have a lot of friends that have served there. I lost a lot of buddies there. It means a lot to all of us. The fact that we had been sending up situational reports or sit reps for the last 2 years of the war saying, these guys are not ready. These guys are not ready to take over. These guys are not ready. And it got to a point where whenever we would send one up, it would get kicked back, and they would say, you can't turn this in. And we go, well, it's the truth. This is the truth. And they say, well, you can't say that. You got to say they're ready. You got to say they're capable. They're mission capable to handle it on their own. And so we were forced to say that they were ready, and every one of us knew. Everybody with combat experience in Iraq knew 100% this was going to happen, and it is a shame that they made it happen. And this is what's about to happen in Afghanistan. The Marines just pulled out of Helmand. That, I guarantee you, I was just in Afghanistan from last August to last December. They are nowhere near ready. No matter what the sit reps say, they are not ready. And the same exact thing is going to happen there. And part of me thinks it might be some kind of diabolical plan, because if you got a commander-in-chief with no military experience, and everybody that does have military experience is saying this is a bad idea, who do you think you should listen to? But he's not listening. And so, unfortunately, we let this get out of control. It's a very simple solution. I tell you what, send me a couple hundred of my Green Beret brothers out there, this will not be a problem anymore. But he doesn't want to let the dogs off the leash. He'd rather send journalists out there than Green Berets to get the job done. And that's the problem, and it's what happened in Iraq big time, is as soon as you send a journalist in there with a team of military, whether it be Green Berets or infantry or PSYOPs or whatever, we know that we have to be more concerned about political fallback than saving our buddies' lives.
That's
where you start to get mission incapable, because you're more worried about that than you are worried about doing your job. And that's why ISIS got out of hand. That's why it's going to happen in Afghanistan. And it's a simple solution. You just won't let us do it.
Wow. Rob, unfortunately, we're out of time. We've got to go to break, but I really appreciate you coming on.
You got to have him on again.
Yeah.
This
Will you come back
for the entire show.
Chat with us again?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hey, I'm a new resident of Santa Clarita, so I any day. I love doing it. I actually just submitted next week's article to Doug this morning. So I'm in with you guys. Anytime you need me, just let me know.
That's Rob Lewis, everybody, a former Green Beret who has a book out called Love Me When I'm Gone, the true story of life, love, and loss for a Green Beret in post 9/11 war. Thanks
Sounds
again,
fascinating.
Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Hey, thank you, guys.
All right, everybody. We'll be right back with the Gazette Radio Hour in Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM-1220 KHTS.